Councillors, good evening to our staff members and good evening to our special guests tonight. Welcome to everybody. To begin with, I'd like to acknowledge the Madjuri and the Kaurna people, the traditional owners and custodians of the land and waters of the Light Regional Council area. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are present today. Do we have any apologies for this evening's meeting? I think we have one from Councillor Fabio. Is that correct? I thought that was the Invisible Man's chair. Other apologies? No leave of absence this time. No non-attendance. Confirmation of our previous meetings minutes, councillors. Recommendation there that the minutes of the confidential meetings of the minutes of the meeting of the ordinary council meeting held 27th of August 2024 be confirmed as a true and correct record of those meetings. Thanks, Councillor Michael. Someone like to second that? Councillor Collin. Any discussion, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thanks, councillors. We work on our communications now, and just before we do that, I'd just like to start the meeting tonight on a very positive note. I think we might all be aware that our council have gained a roads grant of $1.33 million to, at last, upgrade Bethel Road. That road has been on our council's agenda for many years, and the residents down there have been very patient, but it's all come to pass, and through our staff putting together a very sound application, we're successful with $1.33 million. So those works will begin and hopefully they'll be completed by the end of next year. So that's a nice way to start tonight's meeting on a very positive note. My report, since I've been back, which is probably a few weeks now, I've been a little busy boy. A couple of very nice things have happened to me, and probably one this week is, I always harp on a little bit, but we had a citizenship ceremony here. Sky and Kylie helped me very much in putting that together, and we had 5 citizens, new citizens to Australia. It's a role that I play, and it's probably my favourite function as mayor. I think it's something that we can be very grateful that new citizens are coming to live in our region, and there's 5 more this week. The other interesting night was at the Marananga Town Band's 150th celebration. Marananga Band has performed many times in towns across our region, and certainly there's a very famous band in the Barossa area. The evening was exceptional, and it's very much the traditional sort of format in the Tanunda show hall. I had the good fortune of sitting with Bim Lange, Mayor of Barossa, and Ashton Hearn, the member for Schubert, and Tony Passon, member for Barker. We couldn't hear much, of course, because the umpire music's pretty loud. It does put a smile to your face. It was a great night. One of the things that I really enjoyed also was a morning up at the Kapunda High School. They had what they call a Are You OK wellbeing barbecue breakfast. These kids are looking after themselves, and they're doing some really good things at that school. As we all know, Aringa burnt down, and these guys are rebuilding it stone by stone. They're doing a marvellous job. They're being well supported by top tradespeople. They're well supported by funding from state government also, but they're getting on with the job. And you may recall I reported once before here when they won the Community Event of the Year, when they had their 100th anniversary of Aringa, the building, and they were showing people around that day the burnt remains of that beautiful building, taking people on guided tours, telling those people what they're going to do about it, not feeling sorry for themselves or anything else. And this whole behaviour of the students there has continued. They're doing things to help themselves, and they're so proud of it. And they also they asked me to support an award that they've put in for, which is what is it? It's a vet course award, and they have they're in the last 3 finalists in the state to win that award. This is a part of the transition, of course, would be for the work on the school. Sorry, I'm gibbering a bit there, but I'm just trying to get the words right. But it's just a wonderful thing, and hopefully they're going to be rewarded for that effort too, and I go on for bigger and better things in the future. Also, we had a Japanese delegation here from to talk with our environmental copper resource recovery organisation here that, of course, are looking at the copper mine, and they're well advanced. They're looking at most of their licences and agreements have been ticked off. They've got a bit to go yet, and they're also looking at the technology, and this Japanese delegation were interested in that. That's why they were here, not so much to buy the copper or anything else, but they're interested in the technology they're using. As we know, as a council, and we've been informed from the beginning, that they were looking at a high-tech way of recovering copper from the mine in an environmentally friendly way. And they've already won a state award for that. So they're continuing down that path, and they're getting some international sort of recognition for the way they're going about it. They're just hoping, like I guess we are as a council, that they can see some light at the end of the tunnel and get the licences through government agencies. But it's happening, and that was a very fine occasion, and we took them out to Anlaby Station, and believe it or not, they bought some presents from in the gift shop. They were very impressed with what they seen, and they were a very impressive group as well. It was lovely to meet with them. We had a Northern York Local Government Association meeting in Quintero. At that meeting, I may as well inform you now, I resigned my position as Vice Chair of the organisation. I think it's really time to pass the baton. There's some very worthy mayors on that organisation. There's some people I admire very much, and I think I've had my turn. I think it's someone else's turn. And Mayor Rosalind Talbot from the Copper Coast is now the Deputy Chair. And she will also be the representative, hopefully, from the on the SAROC board, also a position that I held, which I'll be resigning my nomination for as well, to fit in with that plan. I think it's the right and proper thing to do. I think that's about it for me. Maybe another bit of good news is the Udundo-Kapunda Health Advisory Council, which I'm a member of. We put up a major project in expanding the old folks village. All the rooms there, the 24 rooms, didn't comply with current regulations in terms of fire safety and all of that. So it was a nightmare to try and think how you're going to go about fixing all of that while you've got people in them. But over a 12 or 18 month period, the job has been completed. Local builders, Matt Bishop and co, did building work, which is outstanding. It was about a $1.2 million job, and I think the last rooms were completed this week. So all those people now will be back in their rooms in something that they got for the future. Very, very proud of that, and I think having these advisory councils attached to hospitals are a good thing, and the one we've got is a very well organised and well chaired meeting by Carol Absalom. So that's about all I've got to report. Councillors, any other reports from anyone? Councillor Allison?
Thanks through the chair, maybe. So on Sunday, the Mutlawera team, so that's Councillor Bill, Councillor Michael and myself, attended the Wasleys Community Forum. It's something that the group there at Wasleys are holding on a regular basis, and yes, we're invited to attend and hear and talk about issues within that area. So numbers weren't huge, but good discussion was held between the people that were there and the three of us. So there was a few things to come out of that, which we'll be bringing up in due course. But yeah, I think the next one may be, February next year. So.
Well, thank you, Councillor Ellison. Thank you for attending that too. Wosley's is a hidden little gem, isn't it, at the moment? And I've been invited to the opening of their or the unveiling of Charlie, that beautiful sculpture, very soon. So I'm looking forward to that day. But it's a surprising little village, isn't it? When you get out there and you start to walk around, have a look. Any further reports, Councillor Michael?
Thanks, Mayor Bill. I'll just echo that. It's great to see, communities organising and advocating on their behalf. And I was glad to attend along with Councillor Bill and Ellison. Just a couple of letters I received during the last few weeks. So I wrote correspondence to the member for Light, Tony Piccolo, the Minister for Local Government, the Leader of the Opposition, the Member for Sherbet, Ashton Hearn, and the Member for Frome, Penny Pratt, voicing my concerns in respect of the Town of Gawler's boundary reform proposal. I was grateful to receive a response from the Member for Light, Tony Piccolo, and also the Minister for Local Government. Thank you.
Well done, Councillor Michael. Thank you for doing that. Anything further, councillors? If not, we'll move on to our next item on our agenda, which is our deputation and presentations. And the first one is a deputation from Kapunda Business Alliance, and it's my great pleasure to introduce Bridget Kimber, a good friend of our councils and a good friend of Kapunda. Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you, Bill. And we have a presentation. For those that either don't know me, I think everybody does, but my name is Bridget. I've got a few different hats around the place and maybe one more new hat since I last saw you all. So I'm a property owner. I've got a couple of properties in Kapunda. I'm a business owner. I'm a business partner in the wonderful wine bar. I'm now also a board member on the RDA for Barossa Gawler Light Adelaide Plains region. My actual job is as a business consultant, where I help businesses large and small work through growth opportunities in the market, whether that might be by strategy or by new market entry, new product development and the like. But tonight I've got my KBA hat on. I'm the chair of the Kapunda Business Alliance at the moment, and I just wanted to walk you through where we are at. The good news is I'm not here asking for money, not this time anyway. But rather trying to find a way that council and businesses can really work together to achieve council's own vision. So I think we've all got the same vision, which is for growth, but how do we actually work together to achieve that? 10 slides, 10 minutes. I think my time's already started, but let's get into it. So along with the new committee for the Business Alliance came a new proposition. So we're very strongly working around a three-pronged approach, which is connect, support and promote. So connect is all about networking, getting small businesses together, B2B sort of gatherings. Support is about access to courses, access to information, that sort of thing. Representation at council. Tonight is about support, and promote is about driving awareness, visitation and hopefully advocacy for businesses in and around Kapunda. We've got about 60 members at the moment out of about 200 or so businesses in Kapunda, but we're on a drive to try and get as many as we can. So I'm going to have to spin around, but gotcha. Okay, small business snapshot. I don't think this is new to anybody, but it's always good to know. 98% of all businesses in South Australia are small businesses. Small businesses contribute 49 billion to the SA economy. So that data's from the new strategy out at the moment for SA. Small business is hard, and I think there's probably a few people in the room who've been there. 1 in 3 new small businesses in Australia fail in the first year. 2 out of 4 fail by the end of the second year, and only 1 in 4 makes it to year 5. not great statistics, and small business at the moment is doing it even tougher than ever. So cost of living is impacting. 28% are making less or no profit than the previous year, and a whopping 21% of business owners have reduced or are not taking an income. So small business in Kapunda. No surprises. We went out and asked our members what they found to be the opportunities and frustrations. The opportunity side of it was fantastic. So I think everybody feels there is a bit of momentum in Kapunda at the moment. We've got fabulous old buildings that are ripe for renovation, transformation, got residential houses selling incredibly quickly and achieving some good prices as well. Because of that, we've got new people moving in, which is fantastic. And we know we've got gaps in the offer where people can actually bring something to the party here. However, along that side, that opportunity for growth, there's trepidation about how hard it's going to be to start and maintain a business in the region at all, but also in Kapunda. So we did do a survey and some interviews with our members, and this is what they found. The question was, what do you find to be the most frustrating thing about doing business in Kapunda? It's a word cloud. It's simply a compilation of the words that were entered. And this is from 32 of our businesses. So council was very high on the list, but there were others. Other detractors included access to transport, cost of living crisis, actually wasn't even, we did a good, the bad, the ugly. It wasn't even bad, it was actually ugly. And the availability of skilled staff, but not just staff, also volunteers. So a lot of our organisations do community work and we're looking for volunteers who are correctly skilled to be able to help them. That was the main frustrations. The three key issues with council were time, cost and anxiety. I think time and cost is no surprise to you. I attended an agribusiness forum not that long ago out at the fabulous Barnes of Freeling, where a true to life slide came up saying it's between 3 and 36 months to get through the planning process. And I think we know, how and why that is. There's a lot to get through, but it's not surprising a lot of these businesses either don't go into the process because they're terrified of that timeline, or they get stuck somewhere in there and fail in the first or second year. The cost, and I think this is a really big one for regional. So a statewide one-size-fits-all planning code doesn't take into effect the cost or the value of the property that you're improving or the business that you're developing. So if you live in Adelaide and you're developing a business and the cost to do that is 10% of the value of whatever you've got, that same cost represents 20% in Kapunda because we've got approximately half the value, if that makes sense. And we're unlikely to get that back. So asking someone to put in a lift, for example, in a business in Adelaide, it's twice as expensive effectively to do it here compared to the value of the property. Can't be solved by council, I know, but it's just something to note. Anxiety. So this is one that came up over and over again, and I've experienced it myself. So lots of business owners, particularly if you're new to business, you don't know the process. Council know the process, but the individuals don't know the process. You get started with all good intention, you think you're on the right path, but then there's all these forms and all sorts of things to fill in. We've actually had some really clear examples of people who've just become exacerbated with the amount of paperwork and have left the process altogether, or have been given the wrong paperwork, have employed someone to help them fill it in, and have wasted money that way as well. So all in all, the process is actually overwhelming for many people. So what's needed? So a realistic approach to business development given the regional location and property values. So yes, there's a massive list of boxes to tick and all those sorts of things, but given the value of the property that we're in and the need that we have to develop, how do we actually sort of reconcile those two together? Working as a team with businesses, we're all after that same outcome at the start. We're all after growth for the region. Putting all of the requirements on the table on day one. So if people know what they can and can't do, they can actually make decisions. Everyone's got options. I think one of the biggest decisions for me at the station when we were developing that, do I go for a liquor license for 100 people? Do I go for a liquor license for 50 people? If I know what the options are, I can certainly make those decisions. If I don't know what I don't know, you go down one path, you get halfway and you have to stop and recalibrate and start again. I think that's a really important one for reducing the time, the cost and the anxiety, and also time saving for council as well. Publishing a consumer-friendly checklist. I don't know if this is something that council can do or if it's something that the KBA has to do, but being very realistic about what potentially the costs might be and the steps might be, not just a sort of a laundry list of all the things, but being really honest about how you're going to have to invest time, effort, etc. And then the other one was standardising some of the elements of the process. So I think most of you will know there's been some anxiety around paint colours and signage in the main street. Can we have a pre-approved set of paint colours, some palettes, so that people don't have to worry about it? Here's a pre-approved colour, go and paint it without having to go through the application process. Again, saving council a whole bunch of time too. Likewise for signage. Is there, some templates that we can actually use so people don't have to go back to it every time and start a new process for each individual business trying to get a sign up? What's in it for Light Regional Council? Growth in the number of businesses, growth in the size of current businesses, growth in the local economy, growth in the population, growth in the rates collected, and growth in reputation. So I think they're all things that the council would want, and obviously the business owners would like to. Last slide, gone even faster, don't even worry. There's an unprecedented growth projected for this region. I think everybody's probably over the GARP that was released. The fact that it was released, you're probably not over all the pages in it. But 25% population growth is slated for the Big Lap region in the next 5 to 10 years, up to 100,000 by 2030. 5,130 new housing lots in Northern Plains and Barossa. $2.16 billion of pipeline projects at the moment sitting in RDA in that same region. So how does Light Regional Council capture an unfair share of that growth? And how does Light Regional Council earn the reputation of being the best council to do business with? All those people have to live, have to work, have to shop somewhere. And here's a really good opportunity for this council to be known to be the best council in the region to do business with. Any questions?
Councillors, are there any questions to Bridget? You've opened up a can of worms there, Bridget, that's for certain. But I must thank you for the overview, and having been a business owner in the main street of Kapunda here, I guess I can relate to many of the things that you've raised. I think some of them are outside of our jurisdiction and outside of perhaps our capacity to provide that type of facility or service. I'm not trying to dodge the questions, but I think business owners have sometimes got to research their own business and what's required, and do an assessment too of where they're going to place that business and make sure the market is ready for that business. And I don't know where council fit into that section. The planning bit there concerns me a little bit, that's for sure, because I'm very proud of our planning division. I think we do some excellent work, and a lot of it. We're a really big growth council, and we're not getting any pushback at any major extent at all. But I think small business, no matter where you are, whether it's in Hindley Street or it's in Kapunda's Main Street, there's issues, and they're all very similar to what you presented tonight, Bridget. And I respect you very much for what you've put into this town already, and you've done it extremely well. I've been past your station on Saturday night, and I reckon I've seen 100 cars there, which sort of...
They came by bus, Bill.
Oh, and it was a big bus, yes, it was. But I think that's a great credit to you, because you picked that up by the shoestrings and turned what was a almost dilapidated building into something now. It's a beautiful feature of the town. So you know what you're talking about, and I think as chair of our business alliance, you'll spread that word and get some of the things that you've talked to us about as questions that others will ask as well, or try and find the answers to in the wide commercial world out there, because that's what it is. It's a dogfight, But one thing that is happening here in this town, Kapunda, the sleeping giant has woken up,
Mm.
and there's not too many empty shops. In fact, we opened up 3 new restaurants in a week, and that's not a bad effort for any town anywhere in Australia. So there is some life in the old place yet, and I think we've got some good times ahead with the mine, certainly with the opportunities that's going to create, and there's other areas as well. And our tourism product too, we're going to hear about that very shortly as well, to try and boost our tourism presence and activity as well. But I'll open up for questions, councillors, if anyone has any questions of Bridget. Michael?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Bill, and thanks again, Bridget, for taking the time to come in and talk through some of these things. I guess I'd probably just be curious. I guess we don't need to resolve it now, but from what I took away from your presentation, there would seem to me to be some sort of low-hanging fruit. The idea of a consumer-friendly checklist, I think, as you put it, some guidelines around the main street if they don't already exist in terms of colour schemes and things like that. What we can do. I think we've had some conversations around parking costs and things of that nature here in a chamber before. It would be good to sort of maybe be able to formulate a bit of a response to some of these suggestions or issues that have been raised, and see if there's some actions that we can put around it.
Thank you, Michael. Bridget, could we have a copy of that presentation? I think that would be very helpful.
Yep.
Thank you for that. Councillor Bill?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, Bridget, fantastic presentation. I was very, very impressed, and some really good stuff there. And like Michael, I think there's some stuff we really ought to be able to use and promote the accessibility of planning and speed it up, because they're pretty simple things really, and if we just get them in place. So congratulations, excellent presentation.
Thank you. I'd just like to respond, if I can, going back a little bit. Mayor Bill, your planning department is outstanding. They do a very, very, very good job. I think for me at the station, the turning point in the process was when I actually sat down face to face at the station on the property with the planners. That was about 18 months into the process. If that had been day one, it would have been a very, very different sort of experience and scenario. So I'm not quite sure if there's a way that the KBA can help, or how we can sort of document the opportunity for some businesses. And if there's some that we think are, really high priority and high opportunity, we can afford that kind of, not hand holding as such, but that kind of, exposure and conversation up front, because it's a very difficult process to put something in, wait for the reply, and then keep on going back forward, when if you've got the information and you have the conversations and you work as a team, which is where we got to, it's full steam ahead. And sorry for the train pun. But yes, we are now doing events at the station, and the economic benefit to the region, to the town, is outstanding. It's bringing a bunch of people here and having Kapunda all over the radio and all over the paper and all over Instagram can only be positive.
Thank you, Bridget. Any further questions, councillors?
I've just got one. So you've already got Kyra and Councillor Fabio on the committee, is that right?
Gemma and Fabio.
Oh, Gemma and Fabio. So you've got quite a bit of council representation on your board already. Are they not bringing back some of these problems to us, or?
Well, if you haven't heard of the problem, then no. I'm not stating it so much as a problem. It's more just an opportunity. There really is momentum. There really is growth opportunity. Now would be a really great time to be able to work together, public and private, to really achieve some of those objectives.
Thank you, Bridget. Councillor Simon.
Yeah, and thanks, Bridget, for your presentation. It was very good. One thing that you mentioned in your answer just before is that it would have been a much easier process for you if you would have met with some council representative from the planning department right at the beginning. So I've been doing this for many years, and I've learned that before I touch anything, that's the first thing I do. I call up council, I request a meeting, and they're always obliged. So I think that has not much to do with council, as much more to do with the people applying or doing these things, not knowing that that's an option for them to do. So that's the first thing before I buy. Probably if I do anything, the first call is go to council and have a meeting with them, say, what can I do, what can't I do, what do you think, what's your planning, all this stuff. So I think that would be good advice through maybe the Kapunda Business Alliance to everyone that comes in contact with you. Tell them that's the first point of contact.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Councillor Simon, that's excellent advice, and the planners have always said that to me. Get people to give us a call first before they commit to anything. Come and talk to the planners, and I think their doors are open. But that message, I don't think is resonating as well as it can, and I think it's our job now to make sure it does.
Correct.
So thank you so much for your presentation. We appreciate it. It's my pleasure now to introduce Scott Hazeldine and Ruby Stobbart from Barossa, Australia, to talk to us about the outcomes of our partnership with Barossa Australia 2023-24 and discuss the annual operating plan, see where we are in the future. Thank you, Scott, and welcome back.
Thanks very much, Mayor Bill. Good evening, everybody. Lovely to see you all, and really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you this evening. And as Mayor said, outline sort of some of the activities we've been working on in partnership over the course of this year, and what the plan hopefully looks like for the year ahead. There. Many of you know who we are and what we do. But I thought just in terms of reiteration, I guess Barossa Australia is essentially a peak body that represents the grape growers, winemakers and tourism operators of the Barossa. We've got a membership of about 1,000 incorporated in there, and a real whole of region focus across the Barossa. That obviously means we touch a number of sectors in there that are really important drivers within the region. We know that. I think you look at a figure of wine sector valuation. That's a very conservative number up there at 740 million. It's probably closer to about 800 at the moment. And then a tourism sector last valued at around 292 there. So a significant economic driver of the region. We've also got some obligations through state government and the South Australian Tourism Commission with a regional tourism organisation under that. And in addition to those industries, I guess we have a number of touch points with the supporting industries in the region. So those are, various bits of manufacturing, and cooperages, laboratories, stuff that supports our kind of core membership there as well. And all of that means we touch a number of wider industry sectors. I guess we also touch areas wider than our remit, so into areas of economic development, skills and capability development, education, community. There as well. Where do we act? I guess as an organisation, almost half of our work is in what we call brand and demand driving. Essentially, how can we promote the region and how do we get more people to visit and buy more of the region's products there as well? So that's a key focus. And I think as a result, we've got, key resources and personnel in the building focused in that area. Outside of that, I guess intelligence and capabilities, really an important area. Our job is really to make sure we're really informed of what is going on in the wider world, collating that information and giving our businesses insight in there as well that they can use in their businesses on a practical sense there as well. We're also heavily involved in capability development. So that is giving businesses greater skills there to run their businesses better, but also a real strong focus on next generation as well, where are career pathways into our industries for the region's young. And lastly, I guess regional leadership is hugely important there, ensuring we're across the important issues affecting the region and that we have a pathway and a voice into industry and government to sort of talk and represent the region from that point of view. In order to do this, I guess we work with a number of key partners, of which Light Regional Council is one there as well. For us, those key arrangements and those key partnerships lie in that sort of triangle in the middle of that diagram there as well. I think Barossa Australia works clearly very closely with our local government partners and with RDA across the whole of region. There's been a real strong focus in the recent 12 months as well of us increasing that cooperation, really ensuring we're all aware of where we work, reducing any duplication and making sure we're working for benefit of the region. But I guess our networks extend a bit further than that as well. You'll see obviously close links to industry, but also into state and national government there as well. And those pathways are really, really important. And we're trying to take advantage of them at all opportunities. I think in terms of value that we bring to the table, I hope, there is a real strong governance and strategic planning framework into Barossa Australia. There as well. We're informed by industry through a series of committees. There we're not operating in isolation. Independent chairs and directors in there who come from outside the region and outside the industry, and audited and through an AGM each year as well. So I hope a really sort of professional foundation in there as well. We're really clear and focused on where we operate as well. I think ensuring we're on top of the really important issues and aligned with our partners like Regional Council, aware of what your strategic plans are, ensuring that we're working cooperatively and in alignment with our planning is really, really important. I hope we bring a complementary skill set. I think what we're finding with work through partners is each of us are really strong in different areas there as well. And for instance, I think in many ways we're the region's marketing agency as well. We've got really strong skills in that area. That's not always, nor should it be, an area that local government or some of our other partners are strong in there as well. So that's a really important piece there as well. As I hinted to, really good networks and advocacy pathways, really good access to information and data, whether that's through our own sources. We've heavily invested in having access to some of the best data in the state around tourism there as well, which even exceeds the capability of SATC, and hopefully that's of genuine use to the region. And lastly, I think we've had a really good record of leveraging the funds that we receive in there as well. So for every dollar we've received, we're usually able to generate at least $1.50, sometimes closer to $2 from industry support and co-investment in there as well. So I think, that's really important to us. The funding is crucial to get us going, but ensuring we make maximum use of that, involve industry, and really try and contribute to that pool as well to get maximum benefit. Quick look at 2023, 2024, and the work we've done together there. I think that's just a quick snapshot of some of the areas. Taking out a few highlights in there as well. Really nice to see Bridget refer to the agritourism forum that we ran there in conjunction with you guys there as well. That's been a key highlight in there too as well. I think data sharing throughout the year, particularly insight into the SATC State Tourism Review and what that might look like in the future has been a really important piece. But as has some genuine really good capability and product development there as well. So there's been significant sort of training programs with businesses around, their cellar door staff and ensuring a consistent message, but also ensuring businesses are international trade ready, able to develop bookable product, so visitors can actually book product from overseas as well there too. I think a key activity that's happened over the course of the year is a regional marketing campaign called Barossa Be Curious. This came about from some significant consumer research that we did that showed the region was heavily weighted to the over 55 demographic there as well, and there was a view that there wasn't much to do other than wine. So I think this is a case of Barossa Australia recognising the need, and industry and the association contributing 150k from our own funds into that to support the work. And that involved a significant sort of campaign through paid digital marketing there as well. And just really quickly, I think what you've seen there is, those figures on the right are some of the successes that we've had in that. So the idea is that we were increasing traffic to members' websites there as well, and traffic to the regional website there. And you can see sort of some decent figures on the right, 30% increase into the regional website, 220,000 times the operator listing was viewed on our website, but most importantly, 46,500 leads direct to the members' website themselves. So that's us driving customers to each of our operators' websites, clicking on there, and then hopefully, engaging directly with the website. That also had some traditional marketing in there. You'll see a nice picture in the middle of a billboard outside of Adelaide Airport there. So the first thing people saw when they come in and out is Barossa front and centre. So I hope that's a kind of example of some of the things we're capable of doing there as well, but also real recognition from industry of where we need to support some of the funding and the work that we're getting from our local partners too. In terms of the year ahead, I guess a really exciting involvement that we've been working on with the staff here at Council. We met along with our RDA partners earlier in the year in a regional roundtable, I think with a view to getting really good early strategic eyes on what each of us is planning. That's been a really positive development, and I hope gives Council a clearer eye of where we're going. And from that, I guess a really clear annual operating plan was developed there as well. And we're now overlaying a 5-year strategic plan in there as well. So I think hopefully Council some assurance about the long-term strategic view. The data and insight continues to be a really important area. We continue to invest in tourism data. We use a software program called Localis. We're just about to add spend data on, so we're able to track not only visitation to the region, but where they're actually spending. And the idea for that is to allow businesses to make really informed decisions there as well. Capability development and product development continues to be really important. And I think in this space, just to highlight that clearly, we're working further than tourism here as well, particularly into viticulture, regular crop watch bulletins, providing practical advice into our grower membership. We're heavily involved in training for the major sustainability program in Australian viticulture, and we continue to work in that agri-tourism forum. And we've seen sort of practical application of that in this last week or so with frosts in region, of really getting some good practical advice out to growers who've been adversely affected, convening some workshops there as well to help. So again, that's the sort of thing we can hopefully turn around for some people in region. Lastly, we continue to be involved with SATC's review, particularly some opportunities that may arise around a destination management plan there as well, which is a really important piece potentially for the region. Some key events, we've got Barossa Vintage Festival coming up next year, but we've also got Gather Round in region and looking at where we can maximise opportunities for the wider region outside of what is happening in Lyndoch itself there as well. And then I guess a focus on some key regional projects, looking at showcasing hero tourism and accommodation options. We hope obviously to hear some news around Drovers Encounter in the future and where that might form part of that plan there as well. But we're also looking at wider things around how we can incorporate the First Nations narrative into the Barossa story. And we continue to advocate on really important issues behind the scenes. One of the key pieces at the moment is long-term water security for the region there as well. In summary, I guess I hope that, you see us as a collaborative and cooperative partner in this there as well. We're genuinely working for sort of the benefit of the whole of region with a really clear purpose about where we should operate and where we shouldn't, and how we can complement council there as well. And we continue to sort of expand those touch points across sectors. And we remain sort of really keen to be accountable and transparent there. I think it's really important that funding partners can see where they're getting value, but also highly appropriate that they're asking for the appropriate KPIs there as well. From our point of view, really ensuring that transparency is there is really. So thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Scott. Councillors, are there any questions at this point? Councillor Simon?
Thanks, excellent presentation. Thank you for that. I do have a question. That there's at least 3 big developments for high-end luxurious accommodation, I don't know, providing up to 400 rooms. And you were talking about your good research and the data that you have behind you. Do you see that demand as a realistic thing, or I just wondered, you would be the man to know.
Yeah, sure, Simon. I think it's a really, really good question there. I think it's a really interesting one. If we look at demand within the region in its most basic, you'd say, on a Tuesday night in winter, there is probably too many rooms. But when we have a big event on a weekend in summer, then there's clearly not enough. I think we are really conscious of a number of developments potentially coming on, and I think it's really important we continue to grow the pie in terms of overall visitor numbers. Otherwise, all we're doing is carving up the pie into smaller slices there as well. I think we'll get a really good idea in terms of the response from the market if we get one of these up and running there as well. But I think, we've got to be mindful that it is whatever development is sustainable against the numbers there as well. We're also seeing, I guess, coming off the record 22 year, we're seeing a return in overnight visitation and international visitation to region back to pre-COVID levels. We've still got some work to do about some day visitors out of Adelaide there, and that's the cost of living pressures biting there. But things like the change to Uber regulations that just look likely to happen are a really, really positive. But I think those pieces need to happen if we're really to make sure those developments are sustainable. Yeah.
Further questions, councillors? If not, has been a past practice. We have a matter at 13.1.4 on the agenda tonight. I'd like to propose that we bring that matter forward. Having said that, would someone like to move that way? Thanks, Councillor Michael. Someone like to second that? Councillor Lynn. Any discussion, councillors? If not, all those in favour? Those against? We'll bring 13.1.4 from our agenda forward for discussion now, which the heading is Barossa Australia 2024-25 Agreement, Tourism and Primary Production. And I think it's on page, I'm not too sure, it was a supplementary agenda. So I haven't got a proper page number, but it's page 4 of the, and the recommendation is on page 5. Move the recommendation. Thanks, Councillor Michael. Would someone like to second that? Councillor Collin? Would you like to talk to that motion, Councillor? Councillor Collin? No. Any questions from any councillors in relation to this matter? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you so much, councillors, and thank you, Scott and Ruby. We value our partnership very much. It goes back a long way, and we've gone through a lot of different scenarios and variations to what we're doing. But I think we're on the right path, and it was just a wonderful coincidence that Bridget happened to be here tonight also, because Bridget's a gun. There's no doubt about that, and she's getting things done and giving us advice that's coming from outside. And sometimes it's nice for us to have a listen, and we're doing that. And we've had your report tonight, and to see what is proposed and how it's going to be delivered is quite eye-watering. So thank you so much for that, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you again, Bridget. Cheerio. I think we can almost get back to business. Councillors, we're on page 7 of our normal agenda section under action items. Page 7, any questions on page 7? Some of those might have been answered tonight. Page 8, page 9, page 10, and page 11. So that's action items. We move now to section 9, which is recommendation from committees. The first one being the Audit and Risk Committee. There's a recommendation at the top of the page that the agenda and reports and minutes for the Light Regional Council Audit and Risk Committee meeting held Tuesday, the 10th of September 2024 be received. Would someone like to move that way? Thanks, Councillor Simon and Councillor Michael. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. We've got recommendation 2, pardon me, councillors, on page 12, that the reports and recommendation of the meeting of the Light Regional Council Audit and Risk Committee meeting held Tuesday, the 10th of September, numbered 1 to 5, as listed below, be adopted. From 1 to 5. Councillor Michael, someone like to second that? Councillor Alison? Oh, Councillor Peter, thank you. Would you like to speak to that motion? Councillor Peter, Councillor Michael, no. I don't know if anyone took the trouble to have a look at that Bentley's report that was attached to this item, but it went for about 100 pages. It was unbelievable, but pretty in depth. Okay, any further discussion, councillors? If not, all those in favour? Those against? And that's carried. That's audit and risk out the road. Move on now to section 10, infrastructure and sustainability reports. The first one being the infrastructure and environmental monthly update. Are there any questions in relation to this report, councillors? I think it's an excellent report, and it's something I think gives us a great deal of knowledge too. If people are going to ask us about certain roads, at least we've got a fair idea of where it's up to and what's been done, where that's always been a bit tricky in the past. We seem to be doing it one at a time. Now we've got them all in front of us. Councillor Michael, do you have any questions? Or
So really comprehensive report. So well done to Megan and her team. Just a question on Clare Road, because my memory on this is a little hazy. So we'll submit the concept design on the 16th. Was that the end of our commitment to that, or are we developing it to IFC design?
thank you, Megan.
Thank you through the chair. We were to submit it for the first stage of the design. We are going to full design. It wasn't actually submitted though by the 16th. We're still waiting for some information from DIP in relation to appropriate lighting and what standard they'd like us to refer to.
That. So when will the IFC? When's the IFC design due? Full design.
I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Anything further, councillors?
Yes, please.
Councillor Simon, sorry.
Yeah, excellent report. I think it's really good to see this list of like what's actually been achieved, and it seems like, wow, that's a lot of road. So that's really good. My question is just that because before we adopted this, the talk was, oh, it's going to be a lot of busy work and all of that. So how hard was that to actually compile, or is that just a fairly easy thing to do? Because I really appreciate it, but if it takes a lot of work, which we didn't think it would, but if it does, then I think we have to weigh that up.
Megan, would you like to respond to that? Because I think that might have been a similar question I asked you earlier, and you came out with a very good answer.
Thank you, Mayor Bell. Through the chair, the report for roads graded, for example, we take that extract because we do update our system already as the roads are graded. So we've just extracted that from our system that we've got.
Thank goodness for technology. Councillor Bill.
Thanks, Mayor Bill. Just a comment, our roads in the area are graded, and it's actually the best grading I've seen for a number of years. So congratulations to the graders. It was, well, the timing or something was a job well done. Some previous grades haven't lasted very long at all. These have been.
Yes, thank you, Councillor.
Absolutely.
But I got a similar response from Peter Kemp over at Roseworthy in relation to the grader driver, young grader driver there. He said, don't ever sack him. He was absolutely totally impressed with the work. And he's a hard taskmaster generally. So that's a great compliment. Any further questions, councillors?
Yeah,
Councillor Collins?
I don't think he's our grader driver, is he? I think he's a contractor, but he's out our way doing a good job as well at the moment. But I was just wondering about these ACCUs. I see where I spoke to Richard about that today. I have a concern that we're paying for these credits when they're not really worthy of the money that we're spending.
Well, Megan, thank you. Richard?
I can take that comment on notice. Thank you, Councillor Collin.
I didn't work.
And when do we pay the 27 grand or the money we're paying this year for the ACCUs, and then next year it's more? When do we actually pay this money? And if we,
through the chair, I think based on our conversation today, we would not be rushing to make any payments for those credits until we've got a better understanding of where that sector is going, if you like.
yeah, because I've got many. I could show you a lot of evidence to prove that they are not a very good return for money, and I'd be very sceptical of using it.
Yep, no, understood.
Thanks, Councillor Collins. Thanks, Megan and Richard. Anything further, councillors? If not, we do have a recommendation halfway down page 25 that the council receives the infrastructure and sustainability reports and contents herein be noted. Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Dean, would someone like to second that? Councillor Lynn, all those in favour? Those against? That's carried. And that'll be followed up, Councillor Collins. I think we move on to 12.2, 23, 24. Sorry. The Roseworthy Township Expansion Section 138 clearance update. And thank you so much, Lisa, for your excellent report here. And this all sounds like pretty good news. Any questions, councillors, in relation to this report? Move on to 12.2. You'll say your future. Oh, sorry, Councillor Collins.
Yeah, I've just got a question about the roundabout. I see so it's one on the Horrocks Highway. Is this the second one? Because there's one being built now. So is there another one and the application's on hold? at the developer's request. I'm just wondering when the next roundabout's going to start and what's happening there.
We're able to get an answer to that one.
Oh, in terms of, is it don't sound something like, yes. Sorry, councillor Ross, your question was in relation to timing, I think.
This says here the application's on hold at the developer's request. I'm just wondering why the developer is requesting to put it on hold, that's all, because I understood there was 3 roundabouts to be built. There's building one now. I thought the second one was going to be near St Ives there somewhere. Is that the one we're talking about?
Yeah, I believe so. Lisa, do you want to elaborate on it? This was the town centre, I think, one. Yeah.
Through the chair, the applicant has been negotiating on the centre development for quite a while and trying to actually bring businesses into his arena. So a lot of things have stopped. So we've actually issued a number of approvals for the centre, but now he's coming for stage 2. So at his request, he's going to be amalgamating all the applications and has changed directions. So he had 3 or 4 different applications going at different times, and now he's told us to put everything on hold, and it's been like that for quite a while, so they can bring them all together at his request.
Thank you, Lisa.
So
Anything
it's,
further?
oh,
Yes, Colin?
so it's basically just a follow on from what he's discussed with us the other day. So yeah, because he wants to do that big shopping centre. So it's going to be all part of that. It's going to be there somewhere. Is it? That's
Any further questions, councillors? If not, we'll move on to 12.3, our CEO's monthly report. Any questions in relation to that report? We'll move on to 12.4, the Greater Adelaide Greater Adelaide Regional Plan Update. I'll say that properly. I might pass over to Craig to give us a bit of background of this. This is a matter that is going to have a great deal of importance to this council over our next couple of years almost, if not more. So I think we might have to start with a short presentation from Craig as to what the matter's all about. I think we're aware that there's a Greater Adelaide Regional Plan being updated and out there for public exhibition and comment. And it affects our region extremely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through the chair. Really a bit of a joint effort tonight. Lisa will be assisting, and I'll also credit Lisa with preparing much of what I'm about to show you. Members, hot off the press. Yesterday, the government released its Greater Adelaide Regional Plan. You might recall that we had a presentation that I largely delivered, but we had Craig Holden from the Commission and one of his staff, Ben Murphy, going back around October last year, and that led to us putting in our submission on the draft paper in November. That's all we collated. It's been reviewed, and now this is the product from that. So everything you're about to see is drawn out of the documents that were released yesterday. That was the full plan and a summary. And there's some pretty significant things that are going to be in our future and for us to consider as we sort of work through this. So just by way of very, very brief background, Greater Adelaide's one of 7 planning regions. It's the only one that by legislation, the State Planning Commission is required to prepare the regional plan for. The regional plan covers a large area, as you can see on the left-hand side there, basically everything from the Fleurieu out to Murray Bridge, up to our area, to the topmost of our area, and then across to the coast. Significant development in and around this space in terms of what we're looking at, but essentially the purpose of the document is to really inform the designated instruments, statutory documents that come through with the legislation. So your planning code amendments are all drawn out of linking back to this key strategic document. So it's important, effectively, in what it does. But essentially, it's a guide. It's about where houses and employment and land will go, how that housing and population will be serviced, the areas that require conservation and protection amongst that, on our doorstep being a key with the character preservation, but also hill space zones and so forth. And of particular importance in the modern conversation is also what infrastructure is needed, where and how we're going to finance it, and how it's going to be provided in advance of need. So in terms of a snapshot, I think we may have covered this before, but just to put it in context, over the next 30-year period, the state is modelling a high growth scenario of 670,000 additional people. They've modelled that as coming towards a population overall of 2.2 million. It's about 46% more than the current, and it's going to need about another 317,000 homes. The current land supply is modelled at about 215,000. Some of that's not quite ready though to be serviced. So one of the things is they're introducing a need for 5-year model of land that's ready to go. But essentially the current land supply is things that you would have heard about, most nearest to us being Concordia, of course, 10,000 allotments. And that was a feature of the housing roadmap, which I'll come to, but there's other supply sort of dotted around. I don't have that map for you, but Sellex Beach, we've got the other ones that I've identified there in Dry Creek, but Two Wells, Cuddler, there's a number of areas. And then we go to Playford, which is doing much of the heavy lifting for us at the minute. So essentially, we'll be looking at about another 100,000 homes that need to be found in terms of the next 16 to 30 years with detailed planning to follow. I'll come to this a little bit more. That's my laser, isn't it? Out of north, you'll see has about, it's doing the heavy lifting in terms of 22% or 70,000 in the mapping here. The rest of our council, part of our area, and I'll come to another slide that shows this a bit better, but Roseworthy is included in this outer north section. And then the Northern Plains and Barossa includes the balance of our area. And there's about a need for another 12,000 homes to be found there. One of the things that was mentioned in a briefing session only earlier today was that modelling shown there's been a 78% increase in single person households. And there's been about 52% growth in couples with no children households. So essentially the types of households that are going to have to be catered for is shifting. I've included this for context. I think I've covered it previously, but the release of the GARP has very much corresponded with the housing roadmap. This was the announcement from the state government at the end of June. This is fast tracking, essentially, bringing land to market and dealing with the housing shortage that we have. It's a good document in terms of a bit of background reading the housing roadmap for how it maps out how we've come to where we are. But the key feature for us, I haven't got here, was the investment in additional infrastructure in terms of water and sewer, particularly for Roseworthy. And there's a significant investment across the state that's being brought forward and to the tune of about 1.2 billion in respect of that. GARP, what land's been considered for future? Essentially, I've touched on how it informs the planning and design code. Very much this document is about all the state bodies being in lockstep around how housing is going to be provided. We've seen over time that integrated planning has had some, well, I would say, difficulties in terms of everyone coming together. And that's something which has been a real key in terms of what's been put forward. I've touched on housing, employment land, something that Lisa will mention in a little bit more detail after I've finished, but open space and infrastructure are key. The table on the side here, sorry, I think my laser pointer's not working now. This basically outlines the high, medium and low scenarios. We've seen over time that obviously growth can be very much dependent on what comes with the forecasting, but the 2.2 is very much the high scenario, that's 670,000 additional. All right, strategic infill sites, not really a matter for us, but just to be aware of. The state's moved away from infill corridors and growth in this iteration. They are, though, targeting particular sites for higher density growth. And those are the sorts of sites that you see, like the old brewery site at Thebarton, more like a model of Bode and Brompton. There's ones at Hindmarsh and Kenttown and Stepney as well. Regional centres, mass transit is a feature. Urban corridors. I haven't seen a lot of this in detail as yet, but the Parade and Nunneley Road are being targeted now as a bit of a focus area. But in and around that, they're not having targets as we did in the previous plan is one of the keys. So in the previous 30-year plan, there was a 70-30 split between having a focus on infill versus greenfield. It was very much about infill development. That's not a feature now of this current plan. It's looking at different options and what might fit where, subject to infrastructure being available and other things being in place. So getting away from the targets is somewhat of a significant shift. It's really highlighting avoiding the sensitive areas. I think we're really familiar with those. I've mentioned the character preservation, other hazard areas like high risk flooding, land contamination sites, those types of things are a feature. Another for our area, particularly around our townships, is bushfire risk as well. Okay. All right. I'm coming towards the parts that affect us in terms of this overview. Transport connections, one of the things that's been looked at in terms of the way this has come together is, well, what infrastructure, key infrastructure investment can we leverage? The Northern Connector, Northern Expressway is a key for our region and beyond. And because of that, that's led to some of the proposals that are a feature of this plan. I've included some commentary here in relation to rail. Rail's long been a view from our council in terms of Roseworthy about having that activated for passenger. It's something which has been built into this in terms of the way that that's been regarded. All right. I mentioned before that we're in two areas, just to make it interesting for us. Outer north, you can see there, Light has a section up here, Roseworthy being the significant part. Parts of the Barossa full of Gawler, and then I think most of Playford is in there as well, with a part of Adelaide Plains. The balance of Adelaide Plains and Light feature in the Northern Plains area. So there is a distinction, okay, between what's closest to the more built up parts and intended growth areas and what sits beyond that. I'm not sure why that's been done. I think it just separates out those dynamics, those particular characteristics. But that then feeds into some of the ancillary information as we go through this. I won't go to this in detail, but there is a lot of tabular analysis in this document. It captures where the supply sits at the moment. Our area, that's highlighted there in the ringed section. The outer north, as you can see, has done a fair bit of heavy lifting. There's about 62,000 lots. That's really what's captured up from 2017 to now, with about 4,000 in the balance of that larger area. The targets and measures, though, are key. They feature in the discussion paper and they've been carried through. But the idea of a cooler and greener urban environment, the preservation of urban canopy in Metro Adelaide is a key that's being put through. We're looking at the 15 years of rolling supply still, as I mentioned, with 5 years being ready to go. A key difference, though, is this part down here. Housing targets being set for each council to achieve on a 10-year basis. So for our area, for Northern Plains, Light there's an expectation essentially that Light will maintain 900 allotments being put to market in township areas over 10 years of each 10-year segment of this 30-year plan. And that's in Freeling and Kapunda, for example. So there's going to be an expectation that councils are partners in bringing land to, availability through this. Some areas, the larger ones, and I'll come to Roseworthy in a moment, will be led by state processes, but certainly councils are seen as being an active partner in this as we go forward. Okay, so that's not entirely surprising. The Minister has signalled this previously, but it's just another element that's come through quite clearly in what we've seen so far. And this highlights just that section for Northern Plains and Barossa. The constraints for us in this area are the fact that we've got the environment and food production areas and character preservation. We don't simply have the ability to add areas on each of our townships. We have to go through that process if we are looking to expand beyond those borders that have been set. We'll see how that goes as we explore it, but certainly this is something which is an interesting aspect. There was a comment in one of the presentations about councils having to plan for this and present plans. I think it only applies for the metro infill, but it's something we'll look at when we start delving into the next layer of detail as we go through. Okay. However, the next one is the big item from our perspective. Roseworthy. It's put in this document as a future satellite city. It identifies here there's land in the EFPA which has been identified. This is that large section to the west going from the existing boundary through to Muddle Road with the college beyond, plus an area here north of Roseworthy Road, and just filling out the balance of the area there next to what is currently the strategic employment land. About, let's say, roughly 4,000 hectares, about 33,000 homes. That's a significant growth area for us to ponder in terms of what that looks like. The discussion talks about how that is then linked with infrastructure and the significance of that. This is a state led process as far as the documentation. We have to look at what the numbers allow for. If we go right back to that first slide, I showed a volume of 70,000 homes for Outer North. Now, how this all fits together with the other areas that are currently underway or proposed in terms of Concordia, in terms of Riverlea, Cudler, parts of the Adelaide Plains and, Two Wells, I should say, and Playford still needs to be worked through the next level of detail. But into the next 30 years and potentially beyond, this is significant. And starting the strategic planning process will be something we'll need to get our heads around as this progresses and be very much aware of. Yeah, please.
Craig, is that they're talking about that in the next 30 years, or is that to be planned, ready for the?
That's the next layer of questioning. Yeah.
Because it wasn't in their mapping, that wasn't included in their mapping.
No.
That I saw today.
No, I think it's basically the forward planning with parts of it. Okay. I mean, the parts that we don't really fully understand yet are these areas that have been hatched are still within the environment and food production areas. So there's a process to do the release, if you will, of those for considering for rezoning. The talk at the moment is that 0 to 15 part, the first half of this plan, is around the 215,000 allotments that are already in the areas that have been earmarked. So I look at this as being in the 16 to 30 range in the first instance, with a lot of lead time, but then potentially beyond. So that's, to my thinking, it could be part of this. What that looks like at the end of the day, timing of that depends on a number of factors. But be that as it may, we know from, I guess, the Garden Town exercise that some of you may, certainly yourself and other councillors who were here at the time would remember, Councillor Close. And from what we've learnt with the part of Roseworthy that's actually occurring now, there's a lot of lead time in this process and a lot of things to consider in terms of not just the growth, but how we respond to service provision, how we get ready for social infrastructure, what that looks like. So it's exciting, but it's certainly something which puts your attention forward thinking in terms of, okay, what does that mean for us and what we need to look at and how we partner with the state on that.
Correct.
Simon.
Thanks, Bill. Just a comment, and that's probably chattering Rosemary, but all that land that you just noticed, that you just pointed out there west of Ports and Cliff Road all the way to College to Modler Road. What the chatter is that's all been bought up by Higginbottom and big developers already, or it's just in the process of being bought up right now. So to me, that would be a pretty clear sign that that environment and food production area will be attacked and changed and obviously eventually be built.
Yeah, but look, I've heard those stories as well, but at the end of the day, that's until these things are in place, that's steps behind the scenes, I suppose. They do that. Knowing that it's EFPA at the moment, and there's a process to go through for that to be changed. Delivery, again, this is very high level. Sorry, but this is the first sort of, I guess, review. But I've mentioned the 10-year increments. We've talked about known constraints for infrastructure and what investment can release and unlock. Council's leading work is a key. This part here is probably the part that I touched on, but just want to really emphasise the major growth areas in Concordia and Roseworthy will be state-led. Okay, so that is a significant difference. Okay, we've talked about that with Roseworthy to date, and having a state-led process means that we're a partner, but we may also then not have as much involvement in infrastructure schemes. And certainly the Dean's model seems to be shifting now very much to the schemes model that's been put forward in the PDI Act. That will be realised in time, and we'll learn more about that as it gets underway. But the coordination with infrastructure and the strategic infill are key parts of what the state is looking to lead in that space. Potential population increase. So, look, I will qualify this. This is very much back of the envelope, rough calculations. But I thought, well, what does this look like? Maybe not to 2051, but even beyond. But it gives you an idea. 33,500 or 33,300 allotments just for Roseworthy. I touched on the 900 over the 3 decades. Sorry, the 30 years. If we're talking that, and at the moment, if we have an average household number of about 2.8, you start getting to the 100,000 population range pretty quickly. That's the high growth, okay? That's if that's all realised at the highest level. But you sort of see what's being contemplated here. And what that will need in terms of understanding transport, social infrastructure, stormwater management as we've experienced, protecting our various other areas that are sensitive or have other agricultural purposes and tourism purposes, those types of things. How it all interacts and interfaces will be key considerations as we'll need to explore as time goes on. I know I've put forward a lot here to think about in very quick order. This is just the highlights package. It's just what we've extracted in, a very quick review over the last day or so. We'll be going through a much more detailed analysis and process here as we start to fashion up some comments for council to consider putting in. We might touch on how that process evolves from over the next 6 weeks after Lisa's part.
Mr. Mayor. Craig, there's no mention of Buckfielder in the plan. That was left off. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Bill.
Okay,
Bill,
employment
Mr.
land.
Mayor, please.
Thank you, Lisa. Oh, sorry, Councillor
If I
Simon.
can ask this, it's a more high-level question to Craig again. So if I remember correctly, we had a 30-year plan in 2010. So this obviously we're only halfway through that. So first of all, why are we having another year plan since we're only halfway through one? And then would that point out that that plan got out of date much quicker than we expected? Would then follow on to the fact that maybe these plans going to update quicker than we expect as well. So I mean, what's the validity of all this if we already making a new plan only halfway through the first plan?
This probably isn't a satisfactory answer, but it's the best I can think of on the fly. The 2010 version was reviewed in 2017 and changed as well, but it was basically under the Development Act, so it was a different regime. The planning strategy was a different document in terms of that system. With the PDI Act, Planning Development Infrastructure Act, coming in 2016, it envisaged new support documents to support the designated instruments. So that triggers the need for at least an updated version. The 2010 version has served the purpose until now, but that didn't have the input of the State Planning Commission, which is a key authority, if you will, in the new system. So all I can really say there, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Zeller, is the time it's fit to have it reviewed and updated to fit the new circumstances and to be updated with what we know now in terms of population movements, demand, and what we've experienced post-COVID as well. Yeah.
Yeah, through the chair, I think what we're probably going to see is 30-year plans and new 30-year plans, so every 15 years, because I think, what was clear in that and the presentation today from the Commission was they want to make sure there's always 5 years of land ready to go, but another 10 years of land that's actually ready to get into that 5-year plan, if that makes sense. So, and I think the time we're seeing, and even the Roseworthy stuff, you look back to 2010, there was a lot of, I remember coming here and, being told, Roseworthy, we're going to break ground at the end of 2010. And of course that didn't get rezoned till I think it was 16 and about 18 or 19. When the first land division was finalised. So we are talking some long lead times, and I'm not sure where it was said today, but even was it Concordia? No, that was another meeting we had about Concordia most likely not seeing anything till 2029. So there's an urgency around that, but that's still 5 years away. So in all fairness, 2040 is just around the corner.
The other problem is population in 2010. The projections are a lot different than what has actually happened. So, the number of people. So when they built the Northern Expressway, they said that's going to last until 2040 before it even and now it's nearly getting exhausted because of the use it's getting because the population grows to the north. So these plans aren't that good if they get all the projections wrong, which they have. So they had to do another one. That's pretty well what's going on.
But that could be just equally wrong as well.
Exactly.
So we don't know.
Thank you, Lisa.
So we had some new employment land that's been identified to ensure communities are conveniently located to the employment. So based on a projected population growth and other economic trends, it's expected there's going to be a demand for another 4,900 hectares of employment land to get through to 2025. Currently, there's just over 1,900 hectares of vacant zoned employment land in Greater Adelaide, and additionally another 1,700 of future employment land. The majority of this land is in the Greater Edinburgh's Park and requires significant trunk infrastructure to bring it to market. And the government's projected at the moment a shortfall of just over 1,200 hectares of employment land. So to cover the long-term shortfall, the draft plans identified an additional 3,000 hectares, with the majority located in the outer north, and that includes Playford, Light Regional Council, Gawler, Barossa and Adelaide Plains Council, and the Murray Bridge regions, which will require significant infrastructure to be established. These new employment lands are located on major freight routes and in proximity to future residential growth to support local employment opportunities where possible. So with regards to this current plan, you will see the area that's shaded in blue. That's the 112 hectares that's actually been foreshadowed in the document we see before us today. So the GARP envisages another 3,000 hectares of future employment land, as I've mentioned, and Roseworthy is going to see to be like potentially accommodating another 112 hectares. That land, just to give you an idea, that's at the junction of the Tilly Highway and Horrocks Highway. So it's that land directly to the south of the existing employment land, and opposite Williams Lake, because if that's probably the best way to describe it, it's those three allotments directly. This is it's prime industrial employment. It's going to, so what's happened, I'm going to give you a bit of a background. The employment lands framework that's been established through the GARP seeks to protect state significant employment land and typically important traditional industries and freight and logistic activities from incompatible development, supporting the expansion and clustering of key economic growth areas. And these are identified as national industrial employment precincts and parks, and aligns with the federal government's Made in Australia policy. State significant industrial employment precincts and includes areas like the Adelaide Airport, Outer Harbour, Gilman and the Grand Trunkway. Then we've got state innovation places, and that picks up on Lot 14, Biomed City, Tonsley, Waite Institute Technology Park and then Edinburgh Parks. Then Light Regional Council falls into this next category, and it's called Prime Industrial Employment Precinct. This is where Roseworthy has been identified as holding the potential to add to the additional 112 hectares of employment land for the state. Another prime employment land includes Lonsdale, Wingfield, Monarto South, Parafield Airport and Direct. These areas have been identified because of the connection to the freight work, like I've just mentioned, ability to accommodate critical mass or cluster of activities, accessible to skilled labour and serviced by critical infrastructure and is unconstrained by abutting land uses. And we've also got an emerging innovation place that's been identified by the government in this document and includes areas like Hahn Marsh, Theberton and Stepney, which Craig mentioned a moment ago. So if you look at this chart here, and I've highlighted the outer north, so that's where Roseworthy is sitting at the moment, and the employment land. The teal colour is actually occupied, so land that's available now. The pink is vacant land, and the future is the dark colour, which is projected through these estimations that we see in this document. So that's the kind of growth that Light Regional Council will bring as part of the outer growth area. So we're in the consultation phase. We have 6 weeks in which to turn this information around. There is a significant amount of information on the website. We have also, as a matter of being a partner with the government, because that is the expectation as part of their engagement plan, we have actually also made all this information available on our website for our own residents. So the final GARP, we've been told, given this very short time in which to make a consultation on, is going to be released in the first quarter of 2025. So the government has basically, through the housing roadmap, Premier at the launch said they basically put 12 to 18 months worth of work in less than 8 months. So that's put a big lot of pressure, not only the state government, but also the councils to get on board and to deliver. So we will now collate, we will actually interrogate this document through 329 pages. We'll interrogate it more. And at the moment, the CEO is foreshadowing a workshop on October 15th, in which staff can start to bring together more detailed information. And then we can actually construct a report that'll form a council report to then be sent to the state government before the 4th of November or the 6th of November, which is the closure date of the consultation. So if there's any questions at all?
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Collins.
Oh, yeah, I've just got a question. So can you go back to those slides? Just that one with that map, the map, that's a map.
One there?
Yeah, that one. So that's prime reduction land now.
Correct. That land, Councillor Ross, was foreshadowed as part of the original Rosebery Town expansion, and landowners basically had to opt in order to be a part of it. At the time, the new landowner opted not to be part of the Rosebery Town expansion, so it was always foreshadowed as part of the strategic employment land. Craig, is that correct? That urban employment zone.
So they've always had a long-term plan to rest this land into employment land, haven't they?
Council did as part of its rezoning, as
Yep.
part of the broader Roseworthy Garden Town. But the actual owner didn't want to at the time. So the government has basically picked up our old original garden town and laid it over what you see today. That's fair to say, Craig?
The rural living, the rural zoning. So it wasn't included in the FPW, so it's sad.
Yeah, it's going to be smart for them to play primary production, to play primary production rates until they develop it. But
Correct.
Well,
Yes.
not really on the right now. Yeah, they're, I don't know, they are all of that.
Going back to that other slide where you had a pink line, that's a buffer zone, is it? So is that a buffer zone that we're under the back?
That's vacant. So at the moment, the Light Regional Council between Kingsford, where you've got Aurora Glass and you've got the Arms Group, and then you've got the RTE, which is the land that some of you might know as the former Ryan land and Halliday land. That is part of what is currently vacant, and that's over 150 hectares between those two industrial areas. What's hindered them to date is infrastructure. There is no potable water. So we're working with HIPDU, we're working with SA Water, we're part of a regular monthly forum where we keep advocating for our residents and for the council. So whilst the state government's picked up on supporting residential, we are now also advocating that whilst we're running all that trunk main and spending this quite a bit of expenditure, we don't want to just stop on one side of the Horrocks Highway. We want to see about being able to deliver to Kingsford and also the RTE strategic employment land. So that's what we need to happen in order to activate these areas that are already vacant and zoned appropriately.
Councillor Bill.
Yeah, yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. So what I'm taking from this is that black area, we have been asked to find that by the government, find the potential areas that could be that black.
We're one of those councils, so Adelaide Plains Council, Playford and Barossa. So yes, we're one of that area.
Yeah.
Yes, correct, of the 3,000 hectares.
So if we identify land, the state will
Yes.
identify the land. Okay.
is it
Councillor Collins.
is it going to help? So that we had a resolution last meeting about industrial land around Thrilling Under. So that's going to be outside of that area. So you can't supply land outside of that will go in there.
it's not a fait accompli that you can't, but I think we need to take stock that this is what's been envisaged. It's about the clustering, it's about proximity to residential, it's about the infrastructure, proximity to the Northern Expressway. So whilst those areas of investigation, I believe, were Freeling and Kapunda, small pockets, this is obviously a lot closer to that whole clustering philosophy that they're trying to encounter. So,
But if you're arguing you want 450 houses built a year, that's pretty well. You want 9,000 houses between the two towns in 10 years, so 900 a year, so 450 a year in both. We got 900 over a decade. Oh, they said 9,000.
no, 900.
It's 12,000 over the 30 years.
Right, so 900, right. So then if you want people to live in Kapunda, be employed in Kapunda, wouldn't you want a small amount of land released for industrial instead of having to drive?
Sorry, yeah, I hear what you're saying. What we're responding to, what we're advising here is what the state's saying. Support these large growth areas, employment lands needed, but it's a matter of scale. And one of the comments, this was the council, but one of the comments may be, well, what happens in terms of employment land for the townships? And we've been looking at what the supply situation is for that. And that is up into the motion of resolution.
Well, government, state governments especially, have been about centralisation, especially Labor government over the last 30 years. They want to centralise everything, don't they? Rather than having regional development, they want it all get centralised. So I'd rather see.
I suppose where we're at right at the moment is that what we've got released here is a discussion paper, and our aim is to draft a response to the discussion paper that will inform the GARP. So our aim would be on the 15th of October to have a briefing session, and our view is that we think that given the discussions that will occur, a session that will probably start about 3 o'clock in the afternoon would be better for us to do. So I'll get an email out about that, and equally we will put an email out that gives everybody the link to the Greater Adelaide Regional Plans, the Your Say website, which is where all that information is. There's a lot. I think it's going to be pretty important that everyone does a lot of pre-reading around it, and then on the night, our aim would be to try and craft something together where we can bring all of our thoughts for the administration to go away, and within a very short period put a supplementary agenda together for the 22nd of October meeting. Outside of that, it would be a special meeting that would be required if we can't do it on that date to achieve our 4th of November date. But coming back to the matter of Kapundas and Freelings or other planning work, I suppose once that GARP document comes out next year, will really inform the investment that council's going to need to make around its strategic planning. And that is probably something that given the extent of what we're seeing, and what Lisa didn't do with that, and no criticism there, Lisa, but if you actually bring that out to a state level, you will see that Roseworthy is probably the beacon within the state in terms of the housing that is foreshadowed. Remember the other housing, some of your Riverlea works, your Manapara's, Andrews Farm, all of that, that's already in the planning system. So that's going to happen regardless. This is the new stuff. So where they've talked about Murray Bridge really pales into insignificance when you start looking at the Roseworthy work. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, because I think that's a discussion that needs to occur. But I can see that the state are envisaging that this should happen. And I think we need to really prepare ourselves and have those strong discussions about what our responses will be. So I'll get that out in an email anyway. So a lot.
Councillor Simon.
First comment, it's a bit ironic because you guys been talking about this 15 years ago, about this big satellite city and with them employment lands and all this sort of stuff. So they're coming back around it after 20 years. That's a bit ironic. But the other thing I want to flag, and I hope we will have that discussion in October, but and I listened to that presentation of the Commission today, and I've never heard, to me, the most glaring issue is we're building on the best farmland in the state. Like at the north end of our state, the farmland gets less and less viable through less rainfall, like closer to the Coed line. Down here, where the best land is, we're building over that. So on both ends, we're encroaching on the best land. You said nobody ever talks about it. Shouldn't we build somewhere else? Like, I think it's just ridiculous trying to cover everything in concrete. But
That's our discussion.
exactly, yeah. But I think in our submission, I hope I got some other people that feel the same way, that we really push that. Say like, yeah, growth and all that might be good, but we really need to be a bit more careful about stuff that we have.
Yeah, I think you make some very good points there, Councillor Simon, and could be very interesting to know what other areas that they have actually looked at that could be used. We don't know that at this point. But this, well, that's right, but there might be further up north too, Wakefield Way or whatever. But I guess this discussion paper and our response to that will hopefully talk about these things and make sure that they have been looked at. Because we have to agree that this is prime agricultural land we're talking about, but we have to understand also that people have got to live somewhere. And this is happening not just in this state, it's happening in just about every state in Australia now. It's the prime agricultural land's been taken over by houses. But thank you so much. Oh, sorry, Bill. Yeah, well, thank you, Lisa, and the team and Craig for that presentation, and it gives us something to think about. And thank you, Richard, too, for making your notes too, and pointing us in the right direction to have a look at that Have Your Say website to see on there things there that we may be able to respond to and at least understand better. So when we sit there and look at these things, we can make an informed decision. So thanks everybody for that, and we look forward to the 15th of October. Yeah. We've got one more item. So we'll move on to 12.5. And hello, Lorinda, and thank you for being here, and thank you for your reports as usual. They are very, very informative and very thorough. We have one here called the opening of nominations for Citizen of the Year Awards program. We have a recommendation. No, we don't. We have a recommendation for all of the reports for information be received and noted by council. Are there any questions for this particular report? For this report of Lorinda's reports for information, opening of nominations for the Citizen of the Year Awards program is coming up. Nothing there. Councillor Collins moved the recommendation.
We hadn't got to the last item though.
This was the last item was this one here, the nominations for Citizen of the Year.
Yep.
So I'll move Councillor Collins. Do you want to speak to that? Councillor Allison seconded that. It's just additional to the, it's a supplementary, that's right. You can get caught up. Is everyone here comfortable with that? Sounds okay? Thank you, Carrie. You're right there, Councillor Collins? Yeah. We've got to move. We have a seconder, Councillor. Do we have any discussion, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried. Thanks, councillors. And we've got a bit of work to do, it seems. Now we move on to some reports for decision. And one of them is the first one, Council Community Development Grants Program, round one funding submissions received. Thank you so much, Lorinda, for your dedication to this particular matter. You do us justice every time. And there's a lot of information there and some fine recommendations too. So I'll open it up for discussion, councillors. Are there any questions? Councillor Michael?
Just a quick question, Mayor Bill. Just very briefly, what's the cultural awareness training program that the Business Alliance is seeking funding for?
Through the chair, that's they're seeking training through for the Nadgery cultural training.
Thank you, Lorinda. Any further questions, councillors?
I guess my only question is, I mean, businesses would normally fund that sort of training themselves, so I just wonder why council's being asked to fund it. I don't have a problem with it in principle, but I just wonder why they're not funding it.
Just a fair question.
I guess in terms of looking at the eligibility and the policy, is that they're a business alliance similar to Kapunda Business Alliance, so they're technically a not-for-profit. So, but as I've always said when I stand at this lectern, is that I'm bound by the guidelines and policies, and I make a recommendation, but I'm always happy for the elected body to change it and see what they think about, something. If they don't want to support it, that's fine too.
Sorry, just a follow-up question, Mayor Bill. The fundraising equipment for the Muddler Wirra CFS, is that, what's that for?
Okay, so the fundraising equipment, they wanted an onion slicing machine. And sorry, I'm going to have to sort of draw on my memory here. There was I think it was $1,312 and $500 was towards aprons with logos on it. And the rest was for a professional onion slicing machine, which I hadn't heard of before.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions, councillors? It's good to see us putting this money out into our communities and supporting these organisations in the way we can. It's some of them are like this couple. They're beyond imagination, but they've done a good job in putting a submission together, and they meet the guidelines, I guess. So that's all we're looking for, and they're local organisations that have a history and have a future, we hope. Any further questions, councillors?
Just, Mr. Mayor, the Concord Flying Club, is that actually in our council area?
It is. I have checked the map, and they have applied for several grants over the last couple of years. The last one was last year for a defibrillator for this particular one. So you might think, why is she giving full amount to some and 500 to others? But part of our policy, we do ask for dollar funding. So if you're asking from council, we want to see you make a contribution. For that particular one, they didn't supply quotes, and they sort of made it clear they weren't going to supply quotes. So yeah, that's one for you to think about.
Yeah, I know the spot, and I don't think they ever get grass to grow there, and they're all from Elizabeth anyway, so.
Thank you, Councillor Bill. Worldly advice.
Maybe another sort of grass they get to grow.
Very pleased to see that Friends of Kapunda have been supported there for what they're doing with that bookshop. It's been quite an extraordinary project that it's put already over, I think it's $17,000 into local communities in donations to various community groups. So they're spreading their wings out there, and they're going from strength to strength with their volunteers too. So it's like a men's shed in lots of ways. People go there and have a bit of a chat and whatever, but they're getting rid of a lot of books, and it's the place to go. And if you're looking for a particular book, they've probably got it. It's quite an amazing thing, and I think for us to be supporting that, even though it's in a very minor way, it's showing that we're sort of backing what they're doing, and I take my hat off to them. I think they've done a mighty job. Any further questions, councillors, or whatever?
Yeah,
Councillor Collins?
I'm a bit, with a bowling clinic, like a coaching clinic. Why don't we give the footy club $500 for their coach? It seems to be,
So they're bringing out a coach from Bowls SA. And so they're having like targeted ones. We did support that when they did their centenary, I think it was last April last year. But that's why, as I said, I'm always happy if there's something that you don't feel that we should support as an organisation, you have that ability to change it.
there's two I don't really like, and that's the Seppeltsfield Road Alliance one and the bowling club one, but I don't think I could contribute to support them, because I think if you're going to start doing coaching clinics, where do you stop? And cultural awareness, I think it's a bit broad, and I wouldn't mind moving the motion with those two out of it.
Perhaps Councillor Collins, with the Freeling Bowling Club, if it wasn't a coaching clinic, you're saying you're quite comfortable with providing some funds to the bowling club, but something that's more tangible than a coaching clinic. And I tend to agree with you. But I think that's a fair comment. Because where does it end? You're just going to pay for coaches. But I think we should be supporting the Freeling Bowling Club in some way. And perhaps we could ask them to perhaps look for something a little bit more, it's not substantial, is not the word, but something a little bit more that's ongoing, something that's going to be there in the future. Oh, you've moved the motion without taking those two.
I just said I'd like to move the motion without 4 and 6.
So that's occurred. We then second.
I need a seconder for that if there is a seconder. Isn't Councillor Michael?
Can I propose an amendment to the motion that Councillor Collins requested?
And the amendment,
No, okay.
and the amendment would be,
I guess, these organisations have put the effort into submitting there, and I do agree, I'm probably less supportive on the discussion around the bowling club. With the cultural awareness, I guess what I had in mind is I'd probably prefer to take $812.50 from that one, given it's a business alliance, and put $812 and then fully fund the Muddlewera CFS request. So that gets $1312, and then we take $812 off Seppeltsfield, the Seppeltsfield Road Business Alliance request, bringing that to whatever it works out to. Does that make sense?
it probably does.
So
Someone
arithmetic,
better at maths than me.
yeah. So arithmetically, Seppeltsfield Business Alliance would be $11.98, and Muddlewera CFS would be the full amount of $1312. That's what I'm suggesting. Now, I'm probably not supportive of changing, because we're only providing half to the Freeling Bowling Club anyway, what they're asked for.
If you're going to change the amounts, I wouldn't mind taking the whole lot from the alliance and giving it to the Friends of Kapunda, because I went and had a look at the what they're doing there, and it's a charitable thing. They're going to put it out in the back shed, and if you're going to move money away, might as well take the whole lot away from. I'd be happy with that. The remainder that's in, it's not horse trading, but the remainder that was left, if that was to go to the Friends of Kapunda and get them up closer to their $1,500 request, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we can do that just like that.
I can move any motion I want.
Because you already moved a motion. And-
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Yep. So we start again. All right, if we the first motion of yours, Councillor Collins, we'll let that lapse because it didn't get a seconder. So that doesn't exist. Would you like to move a new motion? I think.
Yeah, I'd like to move new motion and, take out the, bowling club. I'm not saying the bowling club aren't a worthy recipient of the money. I just think if they're gonna ask, not ask for coaching. Everyone's gonna start asking for coaching money and then take, how much do you say, 800 and? Yeah, I agree with that. I'm happy with that. And then the remainder to go to the Friends of Kunda of that 2,000 that was with application 4.
So we need everybody comfortable with what the motion looks like now.
So Councillor Collin, just to confirm that applicant 1 is as taken on the screen. Applicant 2 is as taken on the screen. Applicant 3 is as taken on the screen. Applicant 4, we need to reinstate, and that was for a recommendation of funding of 1312. Sorry. No, that was 1198. What was, didn't altogether applicant 4 is out? Okay, thank you. Applicant 5 was the full amount of 1312. Applicant 6, which was in, is gone. Yep. Which was the bowling. Applicant 7 was full amount. So that is the motion, Councillor Ross, that you have moved now.
You comfortable with that, Councillor Ross? We've got a seconder. Any comments or questions, councillors? If not,
Look, there's one comment I would make. I find it a bit petty to take 500,000 away from a bowling club. But you must.
so
Just a comment.
just a comment. All right, I'll put the motion, councillors. All those in favour? Those against? The motion's carried. Thank you, Lorinda, for all your work. Thank you, councillors, for your imagination there too, and looking at some of those things in a little bit more depth. We move on now to 13.2, Public Art Grants Program, funding submissions received for 224-225. We have a series of recommendations halfway down page 45. Are there any questions, councillors?
Yeah, just through the chair, prior to the meeting tonight, we did have a verbal request from the Freeling Christmas Street Party that they wish to withdraw their application.
Just a question, Richard, was there any real reason given for that, or?
I spoke to Dominic Shipley today who is the chairman of the street party, and he said that that application shouldn't have gone in because they already had 19,000 and it was being greedy, taking another 2,000 when it couldn't be, it wasn't right. So that's why he decided that he would withdraw it.
Yeah,
No,
thanks.
don't need it. Needs
Uh,
to go somewhere else.
Thanks, Lynn, and give Dominic our regards. I think that's very kind,
Yes,
very thoughtful.
yeah.
Well done. All right, councillor, we're aware of that, we're taking that one out. And we have a mover for this recommendation. No, question from councillor Ellison. Well, we can just take that out, can't we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can move it as it is if you wish.
yeah.
I'll move it as it is now.
Right. Okay, councillor, we're okay with that. That's the recommendation. We've got to have a mover and a second to four. Are there any questions in relation to that or further questions? If not, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried. So, well done. A bit rusty tonight, councillors. It's been a while. Help, Simon. We move on now to 13.3 is our, hang on. Yes, we are. 13.3, our event sponsorship program, round one funding submissions received for 24-25, prepared by Lorinda and Sky. Thank you once again, Lorinda, and thanks to Sky. Any questions, councillors, or would you like to speak to this for us, Lorinda? Give some background. Just one moment, Lorinda. Nigel wants to provide some background on one of the matters in front of us. Thanks, Nigel.
Thanks, Mayor Bill. I get all the good news. It's come to my attention this afternoon that one of the applicants owes council a significant amount of rates and other monies. And that these are rates on one particular property dating back a number of years, but where the event would be at least into 23-24. So I suppose council should consider whether it's appropriate to be funding someone who owes you a lot of money. I suppose on the other side of it, by providing the money might help them raise some money to pay us some money.
Oh, we're in a rock and a hard place.
Well, can I make a grant next year for a function if I don't pay my rates?
Yeah, I guess there was two matters in front of us, aren't there? There's the matter of the unpaid rates, whether that has anything to do with this particular function that they're looking to have our council support, which we've always supported in the past, which is a major tourism event in the region. Can understand the fact that there's the same property as a debt against it, but we don't know if it's the same people that who are running this that have the debt.
Could I move the motion without applicant 5?
Certainly. And the motion is?
Well, the recommendation as a motion with taking out applicant 5.
Taking out applicant 5.
That's happened and it's occurred.
Or just taken it out.
It's just been done.
This is an administrative matter.
No. Based on the move, Councillor Ross has moved it, so it's got some.
I was,
So I need someone.
through the chair, I was just going to ask a question. Have they indicated why their rates haven't been paid? Like
No,
debt
that's
collection
probably what I was
was.
trying to get at.
Yeah.
We don't know all the facts.
And that's what I just wanted to ask, because there may be a reason, or
That's right.
it may not be them, or it's a subsidiary, or has anyone actually followed that through? And
Could be a historical reason.
yeah, so I'm directed that at you, Nigel. Yeah,
Yeah.
which it would be, and I understand that, but to vote on something that I don't know the full extent, maybe there is a reason why it hasn't happened. That's all.
Sorry, I don't know the full details, but the owners of this property you're talking about here also own other properties where there are significant amounts of rates over a long period of time, which is just about in the hands of the debt collector. So
Councillor Peter. Second, Cap. Any further discussion, councillors? If not, I'll put the motion. Councillor Simon?
I just do have a question, because this would include the grant funding for the Belgravia touch a truck thing. My question is that is a massive corporation. Why would they ask for $1,000 from council? That seems a bit odd for me. And obviously, during the provisions say that if you're not a non-profit organization, you're not going to get any grant funding. So they obviously are not a not-for-profit organization.
Because the reason I left that one in was I spoke to Gavin Schuster today, and he was saying that the trucks was very successful last year. A lot of people went, and it was non-for-profit, and they do it through Belgravia because it's through the shed, you know, and that's why, because I had reservations as well after reading it, so I've rung Gavin, and that's why I'm happy to leave them in. Otherwise, I would have taken them as well. But I'm
sure you would understand that.
Yeah, it's interesting when we find out all the facts, we sometimes change our mind, don't we? And that's fair comment, because whether it's a commercial organisation or not, we should always give consideration to events being held in our region. We want to see that happen, and sometimes it's not always just volunteer groups who can do it. Sometimes we need that commercial input for it to happen, and they shouldn't be excluded because they are commercial. We heard that earlier tonight through Bridget.
Through the chair, that touch a truck thing at the farm centre was amazing. There were so many people there and so many kids wanting to touch a truck. It was amazing. And I would like to leave it in there.
Thanks, Councillor Lynn. And further discussion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thanks, councillors, and thank you, Lorinda. Don't forget, councillors, we're looking for those nominations for Citizen of the Year in all the categories. And otherwise, you'll have Lorinda on your back. Next item, councillors, is 13.4, the South Australian Masters Games. There's an excellent report by Sky Harwood, who's doing an excellent job in the tourism portfolio at present. And Scott McKenzie earlier, and Ruby gave her a big rap for what she's doing with them. And she's put a report together here that talks about the Masters Games. And Nigel and myself, I've competed in the Masters Games in the past in the triathlon and so forth. And they're big events. They attract huge numbers. And I'm, from a personal perspective, I'm with her recommendation. I think it might be a little bit too large for a single council like ourselves to be able to conduct what they would be looking for. And they're looking for a heck of a lot. When you see the scope of what they actually do, even with adjoining councils, it might still be difficult. But I'll open up for discussion if anyone would like to.
I'd move the recommendation. I think it's a good idea because all of our sporting areas may be able to contribute a venue like tennis courts and all of that. And I think it would be, if we worked with other neighbouring councils and tried to work out what they want and just leave it there. All right with that? I'll move that we.
We're looking at $150,000. Well, that's in the executive summary.
We're just going to help others out if they need help.
Is that what the recommendation says? Okay. Any further discussion, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thanks, councillors. Okay. So I'll read it more carefully in the future. I'm still a little bit confused. It says there's no budget specifically allocated to major events in long-term financial plan. And we not directly submit an expression of interest, blah, 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 for whatever. Never mind, it's done. We move on now to 13.5, proposed road closure, Arrow Road, Ebenezer. There's a recommendation about halfway down the page. Councillor Michael, would like to speak to that? Do I have a second?
No, just a question, if I may.
Certainly. Councillor Simon?
Why Councillor Ross's name is not mentioned in this report? Because I thought it was him that got this to a head, isn't it? I was just wondering why Councillor Ross's name wasn't anywhere in this report, because I was thinking it was him and his motion that got it to here right now. So that's all.
I get it now.
Much as it upsets me, my name's not there. It doesn't worry me, and I'll second it.
You're second, Councillor Collins? Yeah. Well done. Any further comments, councillors? No further comments or questions? So all those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thanks, Councillor Simons, for clarifying that. The Management Agreement for Freeling Institute, another good report. There's a recommendation about halfway down the page. Any questions or
Mr.
comments,
Mayor,
Councillor?
I'd like to speak to this.
Yes, Councillor Lynn.
I'd like to ask, first of all, about the facility being given to the RSL in Freeling. Does the property and contracts coordinator, does she know what has been arranged about that institute beforehand? That we were waiting until till the CFS built their sheds, and because they were using that to change in, and I'm not happy about the RSL having control of that, because we were allocated the front room. We talked about the front room of that to be a historical room, and there's no mention of that here. And I don't know if this lady knows exactly what has gone on before. I'm just not happy about it at all.
Thanks, Councillor Lynn. Is there anything further? Any other questions or comments, councillors?
Megan.
Megan, would you be able to put some light on this topic?
Thank you, through the chair. The report is merely for a sign and seal. It doesn't provide the details of the agreement. However, I'm happy to take on board your comments and ensure that that is part of the agreement. We have got in there details about the CFS and the short-term nature of that and other hires of the facility as well. I can take that back and make sure it's covered.
Yeah, I had a visit from Jan Both, who was on the original committee of the Institute for many years, and today, and she's not happy about it either, because the RSL originally applied to have just the supper room as their meeting room to that committee. And I think this needs to be more investigation into that before we hand this over to the RSL to do the hiring out and all of that sort of thing. So can I, what can I do? Just leave it with you to look into it, or?
Excuse me, through the chair, I can provide some history. The original committee no longer were able to manage the facility and advise us in that in writing.
Yeah.
So we were approached by the RSL, who originally wanted to be a hirer, yes, for the supper hall, who have agreed to take on the facility to help manage it so people can still continue to use it. And the original hirers can still continue to use it, however, through the RSL though. So the RSL are now the people that council will have a management agreement with, as opposed to the previous group. It's just change of group. The facility will still be managed in the same manner.
Yes, yeah. She also told me today that she has all the original minutes of the secretary, or as the I think she did the finances, and because she doesn't have a computer, it's all in written form, and she's got 15 bags of these things home, and well, I can't laugh because she was very upset today. She would like to, and she was supposed to give all of these bags of stuff to the secretary to take over, and nobody's come to get them. And do you want to have a chat to Jan? Have a chat to her and just see what on earth is going on, because I mean, she was, you know, real tiz today. Okay, so I'll just leave you to sort that out. Okay, thank you. So we haven't got the management agreement. I don't want that a management agreement now. I'll leave it to you to work it out. So what do you want me to recommend?
Through the chair, the recommendation is what has been provided. It's up to yourself if you wish to agree with it or not agree with it.
No, well, I don't agree with it. So
Turn off.
Just a question, Megan, the new management agreement confers similar responsibility upon the RSL as it was with the management committee. In other words, they, if not there just for their own use, but they're managing on behalf of the community. Is that right? And are there safeguards to make sure that happens?
Through the chair, yes, the agreement is to ensure that the community can continue to use it as they have previously, including any member of the public who wish to hire it for an ad hoc event or for regular events. There was an existing craft group, I believe, basically with people from the original committee. They are still invited to use the facility.
Thank you, Megan.
And is it open for new ones? New group using it?
Certainly is, yes.
Just a
Any further
quick question on
questions,
that, Mr. Mayor. That
Councillor Bill?
7,300, that's the insurance cover, is it? That's what we currently pay for the insurance of the hall?
No, through the chair, that's the management fee. So it originally started off a number of years ago through council. It was approved at, I think it was $5,000, and then it's gone up each year by a percentage, and that's what the fee currently is. And that's an adopted fee within the budget. The fee covers their insurance as far as they need to cover their own insurances, public liability, a little bit for utilities. They need to pay their own electricity bill and other simple costs to run the facility.
But not insurance of the hall. That's.
Thank you, Councillor Bill. Thank you, Megan.
I'm just wondering whether Councillor Peter just suggested we lay it on the table until you come back with the management agreement that says that front room on the left-hand side is a history room.
Hasn't been moved yet, so you can't run the phone.
Can't lay it on the table.
Hasn't been moved yet.
No, it's not going to be moved.
But we could suggest
Yeah,
that it comes
game
back
man.
next meeting after
Yes.
discusses it and
Yeah.
maybe bring it back next meeting after Estelle has spoken to you and other stakeholders and then bring it back. Is that?
What do you reckon, Richard?
You happy to lay it on the table till the next meeting?
Just leave it.
If,
Just to put those.
through the chair, if this simply lapses through no mover, no seconder, we will simply bring a new report back, engage with you and an
Okay.
appropriate recommendation is probably as simple as anything, to be honest.
So it appears no one's going to move this motion or second this motion. No bun fights. This could be a civil war here. Thanks, everybody. I think that's probably a very fair way of doing things. Councillors, we've still got 9 reports to go. Shall we work on for another 10 minutes or so and see how we're going? And otherwise, we might need to stop for tea. But I don't know how big the 9 reports are, so we might see how we get going, hey? Next one, being 13.7, that's the water agreement for Dutton Park Incorporated. We have a motion about halfway down the page. No, I don't think you do, because this is a council committee, isn't it? No, it's not. Yeah, it's a council facility. Yeah. Yeah, I don't.
I'll
think
move
you
the
have-
motion, the recommendation, please.
Thanks, Councillor Bill. We've got a seconder, Councillor Peter. Any questions, councillors?
Yeah, I'd love Colin to do it, but he can't.
Have any questions, councillor? If none, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thanks, councillors. That's pretty straightforward. Audit and Risk Committee, terms of reference, new membership. Would you like to speak to this, Nigel, or the report's fairly straightforward? It's up the third of the way down the page, page 78.
I'll move it, Mandel.
Thanks. I've got a mover, Councillor Michael. Would you like to talk to that, Councillor Michael? No, Councillor Dean, second. Any comments or questions, councillors? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? It's pretty straightforward. Thanks, councillors. (13.9) a policy review of the council's members' allowances and benefits policy. Now, this has got some really interesting, juicy things in there. There's a recommendation, 2/3 of the way down page 81. Would someone like to move that motion? Thanks, councillor Dean. Have a second. Would you like to speak to the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Thanks, councillor. Would you like to speak to it? No. There's some interesting little bits and pieces in there that it's all going to benefit us as elected members. So I think we've all got a conflict of interest, but never mind. Councillor Simon.
I do want to speak to that. I'm going to support it, but just the 0.6.4 in the procedures bit talks about record keeping and all that, and all the stuff that we meant to do, every text message and written notice, and never send it to the records keeping department. All that. I mean, it seems very onerous, and I don't know if we're going to be able to actually do all that, but I'm all for it. Have it written anyway.
Anything further, councillors? If not,
I didn't know you got clothes. That was a new one to me. That was
you got clothes.
yeah, get clothes. So yeah, I'm
That's
3XL. So
I thought there was some interesting little. I reckon you look pretty good in one of those jackets, Colin. Councillors, any further questions or jokes? If not, there's a recommendation 2/3 of the way down the page. Someone like to move that way? I think we did, didn't we?
we-
We've moved in second. Any further comments? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against, and that's carried. Thank you, councillors. 13.10, discretionary high property value increase rate rebate. Nigel might have an update on that for us, councillors.
Thanks, Mayor Bill. Just an update in terms of the numbers that are quoted in the discussion analysis. As at 5 o'clock tonight, there had been 956 applications for rebates received, and we're now up to $302,000 in approved rebates. It's probably fair to say that when we decided to individually write to all the primary production ratepayers, that was probably a fairly slow process of communication, even though it was the only way we could get to everybody. So I think that's probably caused a bit of a delay in applications, and they're still coming in steady. So the plan is that at the November budget review to give you some more detailed analysis of what's actually happened on both the primary production and the residential categories. I would say probability is that you're not going to spend the entire budget of 457,000, but it's a bit hard to say at this stage.
Thanks, councillor Nigel. Any questions, councillors?
Yeah, it probably says there somewhere, is there a cut-off time, Nigel?
You've got plenty of time.
1 week.
Yeah. Yeah, so people have got a fair opportunity. If there's no more questions or comments, I'll put the recommendation. Do we have a move? No.
I'll move the motion, Bill.
Councillor Michael and second Councillor Ellison. Any further questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried. Thank you, councillors. Woohoo. 13.11, Local Government Finance Authority of South Australia election for board representatives. We have one there from Councillor Phillips Ryder, Councillor Michael, which I'm really pleased to see that you put your hand up, Councillor Michael. Councillor Dean?
Can I suggest that the gap be filled in by Mr. Michael Sedgman, who is one of the members already on there, so that would give us a new member and a continuing member, so give a bit of continuity, and he seems to be eminently well qualified.
So I have a mover and a seconder. Michael's leaving the room. So I have a mover and a seconder that Councillor Michael and Councillor Michael Sedgman be nominated for the positions on the Local Government Finance Authority of South Australia Board of Representatives. Is there any further comment, councillors, or questions? Oh, Councillor Dean? That'll be good going out on Sunday night, you two. Councillor Simon.
I just have a question. So if I would want something, I would propose Mr. John Smedley. But I mean, do we need to vote on that, or is just he?
I think we do.
That's what I mean. So if somebody just proposes it, and then, I mean, it doesn't really bother me too much. But
We've got a motion for a mover and a seconder for
yeah,
Councillor Phillips Ryder and Councillor Michael Sedgman, not Councillor Michael Sedgman, Chief Executive Officer of the City of Adelaide, to take those positions. I've got a mover and seconder. Need any further comments? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. So Michael can come back in now and he can rest easy. Ah. The next one here is the election of Local Government Association of South Australia as president. We have 5 nominations there. We've all maybe have our favourites. Does anyone have any comments or
Can I move then to put Claire Bone in there?
you put who in there?
Move that motion to put Mayor Claire Bone, City of Port Adelaide Enfield as our nominee. Good.
We did. So we have a motion that a mover that Claire Bowen of Port Adelaide Enfield Council be our nomination. Do we have any further nominations?
No. We've got to move them.
I need a second then. Any further comments or questions, councillors? Yeah. Yeah. Now we'll go through the chair if we could, councillors. Councillor Simon, would you like to speak to the motion? There must be a reason why you've chosen.
Oh, I mean, I had some interaction with her, and I think she does an excellent job, and she's a very straight talk and level-headed person that with lots of knowledge and experience. I think she'd do a great job.
Right, so and would you like to speak to it? Okay. Are there any? Yeah. Okay. It's a fairly important role. Talking about. She's Port Adelaide Enfield. She's a very nice lady. She's very capable. But what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at 5 that are very, very capable. And, one in particular, I've had experience with 4 of these out of the 5.
I move the motion be put.
Here, and I think it's probably 4 of the 5 I've had experience with. Could all do it. No, I can't put a motion up. Okay, any further questions or comments?
I just move the motion be put, Bill.
Fine. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried. Our nomination is Mayor Claire Bone of the Port Adelaide Enfield Council. Move on. The election of the Legatus Regional Grouping of Councils for the SAROC position. I've realised, councillors, that I was nominated by this council some time ago to what was the Legatus Group, which is now the Northern and York Regional Local Government Association. At their last meeting, I, for personal reasons and for reason of, I think, succession, I chose not to stand as vice president this particular time. I'm not accept my role as vice president, and I resigned. In the past, what has happened with the SAROC, the vice president and president of the Local Government Association regional, which was Legatus in Northern New York now, were automatically on the SAROC board. I resigned my position up there as vice chair because I was really keen to see Ros Talbot, who's the mayor of Copper Coast Council, get a chance to have a go. I thought it was time to pass the baton, to be perfectly frank. I've been vice chair for about 5 years and I've done that, and I think someone else deserves that opportunity. They changed the rules. Now the Electoral Commission run an election for the 3 positions on SAROC. Mayor Rodney Reid nominated. He's the chair of our association, was before. He got wind of that, so he nominated here as well. And of course, Ros nominated as well, and my name was in there. And I'd like to withdraw that, and I have written to Kerry to say I'm withdrawing my nomination, so we don't have to vote on this matter. Well, we do have to vote on it, but I'm not there, in other words. And I think that's fair to say. I mean, she'd be a good representative, and I think the time was right. Thanks, Councillor Dean.
I move the motion, Rosalind Howard filling the blank spots and your name removed as you have requested.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Simon. Any comments, councillors, or questions? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, we've done 13.14 or 13.2. Done that.
Yep, so we're up to 13.15.
13.15. Up to 13.15, councillors, and supplementary if you can find that on your iPads or whatever. And I have a recommendation about halfway down the page.
And there are the printed sheets.
Oh, and the printed sheets of the customer satisfaction survey are on the table for everyone to have a look at. I'll be looking for someone to move this motion or speak to it or questions.
I'll move the motion as it is and think that the customer satisfaction action plan is pretty comprehensive. Timelines seem reasonable and the having the survey every other year gives time for actions taken to have enough effect to be measured. So I'm happy with it as it is.
Thanks, Councillor Dean. Any questions or comments, or someone like to second that? Councillor Simon, like to talk to that?
Yeah, yes, please. I'm not really all that happy with it. I think there's some points. Point 11 is obviously there's a good one. That's some actual things to do, but a lot of it is making a plan to make a plan to do. It just seems so long-winded and a bit complicated. And I'm not really sure if you're gonna. I would have just thought if everybody just does the job as best as possible, we'll get better. But yeah, probably got a bit of simple view on that. But I just wonder if you really need to spend much. I mean, I see $1,000 here and there, but $50,000 for a new CRM system, is that really going to do the thing, or could we just? Is that the failings? Is the failings that we can't record it properly, or is it just that maybe we don't act quickly enough? Like it seems to me like it's much more just, how do you say, direct concrete things that we could be doing instead of making plans of what we should be doing. Like just be better. I think if everyone just tries a bit harder, I think we could get a lot further than spending money on making plans. That's all.
There's a question.
I'll note your comments and but the CRM system isn't about recording, but the CRM system is a customer relationship management system. So it's about the way in which you interact with people. And I think that is the feedback that we're getting. And as Councillor Ross pointed out to me the other day, the input and that first commentary from people is actually very well regarded. Once that occurs, there are breakdowns, and we found the breakdowns, and it's the systems themselves, because we don't have an integrated system at the moment. We're using, a bit of Microsoft here and a bit of this there, and that's where the system falls down. So we've seen some systems, and there are some systems that are actually very inexpensive, but there are some systems that are a little bit better. But bringing it into the budget enables us to properly assess all the systems that are out there and work through over the next 12 months next 12 months to actually review and implement a system that, in my view, will be game changing for the council.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. That's very well put, very well explained. I think the CMR system is a very good one. It is that first point of contact with our residents, and we do need to improve it. I've seen it fall down a little bit at times, and there's been no sort of follow up, and we're finding that out through our surveys and so forth. So it's on the right track. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Collins.
I'm prepared to second it, but as I did point out to Richard the other day, there is a clear expectation to the community after they do report something that it gets followed up, and there's been and the survey did identify that. The other thing I'd like to see is the leadership really lead the council and make sure that everything is implemented, and I think some of this just chucking money at it is not the whole answer. I hope that, you know, as a collective we can try and improve the satisfaction of everyone in the community, and it's up to us all to do it. So yeah, hopefully we can get it done.
You made some good points there. Thanks, Councillor Collins. Anything further? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried, and we've got something to work with now. We've got an action plan. Thank you. And I do take your point, and I will certainly keep in contact with senior management and Richard in relation to where some of these CRMs are going and what response has been forthcoming.
I think one point that I'd like to make, and I think the administration don't really appreciate, sometimes there are things coming to elected members and we can bring them to you. And sometimes I find that the administration find it hard. They think that we're actually not helping. We're here to help. So it's a collective thing. And, you know, I know with Megan, there's a few roads we've corroborated and done a good job and got it done. I think that we can all work together rather than see a divide between the elected body and the administration. I think if we can tighten that up and everyone work together, if there's a complaint, we'll bring it to you. We'll deal with it collectively. Don't feel that we're bringing it to you to be, you know, obstructive or whatever. If we can just all work together, I think that's going to be a long way to getting a community satisfaction a lot harder.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's, you know, well said, and I think that's what we're going to aim to do. We haven't been too good at it in the past. We've got to get better, and at least we've got some opportunity now to do that, regroup, and make sure that we are talking as one. I think that the communication lines have probably been a bit sort of hazy, and maybe they need to be a bit clearer. I'll take a bit of responsibility there, and if anyone wants to contact me in terms of getting to see where we're up to with a particular thing, I'm happy to take the call, or take a message or an email, and I'll follow that through. And I'm prepared to do that. That's part of my job. I think that's probably the best way. And I think with a new CRM system in place as well, that will also assist, because I think a lot of these things are getting to our staff, but they're being implemented in some cases, and some of them are probably slipping through to the keeper, but we don't know. So that's what we're saying. We do need to know so that they can be followed up. But I'll take the point, and we'll see what we can do, and we'll make sure we do it better. Anything further, councillors, on that? We voted on it. Item number 15, questions without notice. Oh, you did. Yep. Yep. We did. I think we've only got these matters in our normal meeting. We've got one matter in confidential. So questions on notice. Do we have any questions on notice? I don't think we do. And questions without notice. Have any questions without notice? Not at this point. Motions on notice. I don't think we had any of those. Excuse me.
I have got a question without notice, but it's a follow-up to an email which Michael. So just about the gas leak, and
yeah,
I just wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind knowing a bit more about it, because
I just have
But I don't want it spoken here if we can just.
I just have a comment there. I think it's an operational matter, and I think we should leave it at that. And that's where sometimes the lines get blurred, and we think we're not getting the information we're looking for, but we're starting to move into operational matters, and that's a classic.
If you're going to blow up the block and we're getting asked about it, I think it's more than operational. It's a pretty big thing. Because I drove over there that day and the whole street, it's a big thing. So I get asked about it. I want to have a good response and what happened, how it happened. And I think it was operational that it happened, but I think we have a duty to know so we can answer, we can all have an answer which is good enough for the public.
Point taken, Megan.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Collin. Yes, I'm happy to share some details that obviously aren't confidential once the investigation has been completed.
Thank you. All right. Any further questions?
Yeah. If I can have a
Councillor
following question for that. So, but if somebody does ask us what happens, is that what we're going to have to answer? It's confidential and we'll let you know in a month's time, or what should we ask? Because I was probably one of the first to know, because I know somebody that's at that old folks home, and I was there when they received the text saying they're going to get evacuated. So I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" I knew straight away what's going on. So I knew probably 10 minutes after it happened. So but then all of a sudden I got all these questions. So what can I do?
Yeah, look, I think these things, I mean, firstly, it was, obviously an incident that occurred on one of our sites. Secondly, we're not the lead on it. Somebody else is, who is managing the safety of the community at that point. So that was, I think, very well publicised and got across. I think heard from the emergency sources prior to being notified by Megan that an incident had occurred. And that was pretty close to when it occurred. But like any, you quite often see these things, with a building site incident or something like that. So the public, what the information the public's got is the information that's out there at the moment, which is fine. We will provide you with some further detail once we actually have got all of the information available to us. So we haven't completed all of that as yet, but once we have, it'll be circulated to elected members. And as Megan said, what we can.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Anything further?
So I had a question without notice, just in relation, and I think all three of the elected members for Muddlawera have been spoken to by a gentleman who owns the property on Muddlawera Road with the hall. I just wanted to put it on the record that I said I would bring it to council tonight, and I know we've been dealing with Craig on it, and it's excellent. Thanks, Craig, for your replies. But yes, I did say to him that I would put it on record. It's just in relation to the old hall near the Roseworthy campus that recently was purchased by this gentleman. He's built a house, he's put a shed on it, and it still has the existing old Kangaroo Flat hall, which has an order against it to be demolished very shortly. And I think, there's a fair bit of process involved in that, which Craig's involved in. He was hoping to save that property, but I don't think that that's the way that it's going to happen. So, yes, I'm just putting it on the record.
Well done. Thank you. Oh, no. It's noted. Yeah, thank you. Okay, any further questions on notice or without notice, pardon me? There's no more questions without notice. You just need somebody to get back to that gentleman though, don't you?
I will bring it up to council, but
Okay.
since then, I can do a few more things.
Oh, okay. So he,
and then he spoke to me and then spoke to
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, it was called the Tin Tabernacle. It's a very historic old building when I was a Roseworthy College student. Part of the new students test was to know what the Tin Tabernacle was. So a lot of Roseworthy College students would certainly know about it, even if they'd never been in it.
Thanks, Councillor Bill. There's no motions without notice either. So that leads us now to move into a confidential session, councillors. We only have one item. So under section 91 of the Act, could I have someone move that we move into a confidential session to discuss this matter?
Yeah, I'll move that way.
Excellent. I have a mover and a second, Councillor Bill and Councillor Michael. All those in favour? Those against, that's carried.